Fine.
Welcome back.
Right.
We're going to go ahead and hand it over to our session chair again, Dr. Brahman.
Okay. My specialty is all on leadership. So that is my part of the work that I completed my doctorate, postdoctorate, all on leadership. And then I have many writings, books you have already come to know, all on leadership. And today the intersectional leadership was actually the composite concept leadership, on which I have a book that is already top rated in the Harvard. So all the way, not talking much about me, going back to the presentations that I really planned. Okay, I'm sharing my screen to start the presentation. I think you can see the screen very clearly.
Yes.
Okay. The world-based leadership management concept. This is an idea, exactly the endeavor in the form of finding the best leadership management concept, one of the concepts. Since the dawn of civilization, researchers tried to find one best concept of leadership management regardless of time and situation. In the quest of one best leadership management concept, paradigms of research were continuously shifting from one to the other. The effort is still on, and my presentation before you, the learned scholars, is also an endeavor in the same path for listeners. Whether it will be the best leadership management concept or not, it's just an effort. Firstly, we'll be looking at the leadership study. The world famous New York Public Library has 10,000 monography, biography, autography, newspaper clipping on leaders. Assessing and developing leadership, researchers listed 10,000 probable qualities human in behavior from the Webster Dictionary. Two researchers, Alport and Albert, select and research after research, they reduced to 4,500 possibilities leader may have. Decades of academic analysis has given 850 different definitions. Thousands of empirical investigations conducted in the last 75 years alone, but no understanding exists. This started the ancient when Aristotle disagreed with theory. The extensive research on this subject has failed to find us even few traits which could be common to all leaders. Each leader has a unique personality, not really alike in the world. Neither any formula to make leader, nor all successful leaders are by born. A famous social scientist, Max George Barnes, once said, leadership is among the most highly studied subjects, yet remain among the least understood. Even scholars have hard time defining leadership in exact terms. Thus, one of the researchers have compared leadership with love and said, like love, leadership continued to be something everyone knew existed, but nobody could define. Famous social scientists indicate a serious failure in the study of leadership, and almost all researchers have agreed with this remark. An immense reserve of data and analysis and theories have been developed, but no central concept of leadership has yet emerged. We lack the foundation for knowledge of a phenomenal leadership. Let us investigate the conventional concept and theories of leadership studies since the Greek philosophy. In the Greek philosophy, Plato was the first who underlined leadership as the philosopher's king theory with four cardinal ideas. And according to him, virtues are a matter of birth. He considered virtues as universal. But his student, Aristotle, out the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, discipline, justice, and that these four cardinal virtues can give birth to all the virtues. The Greek philosophy came out from the concept of universal virtues, the cardinal virtues. But the Aristotle students, Alexander the Great, conquered the world. Then the earlier theory, the Plato, became blood, and Aristotle theory came into light, in the limelight, because of the success of the leader. The Greek philosophy of 1930 to 40, leadership theory was developed, the trait theory, great man theory. Hundreds of studies were done, but no single list of traits was accepted by all researchers that can guarantee success. Thus, researchers failed and changed this paradigm to investigate on the behavior of the leader in 1950. They observed that behavior of leaders significantly influenced on the effectiveness of leader. Then they developed hundreds of behavioral theory. autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire, something like that. Hundreds of studies are examined, but unfortunately, no agreement on best style situation. Researchers keep the next paradigm. They observed that the situation has influence on the behavior. So another situation must be brought in developing leadership concept. Then 1960, they developed many theories considering the situation, Fiedler, Hersey, Blanket, Padgul, something like that. Researchers observed that followers of some leaders are willing to work so hard and make personal sacrifice, which stereotype management-oriented conditioning theories are not enough to develop such kind of leadership. They integrate theories and paradigm again shifted. An integrative theory was developed in 1970. Hundreds of theories are developed like transformation, charismatic, visionary, something like that. But it can found that charismatic leaders are not without limitation. It has dark side. And it can cut both the way. It's not the solution of the problem. And then they developed the 21st century, the emerging approach, ethical cross-culture, something leadership like that. Now looking at the management study, similar scenario is also observed in the management study, where the concept is varied and complex. They found that management concept is not static, it is always varied and it has got a complexity. Problem of the study is that since ancient, many smart theories of leadership and management have come and gone. Some look at the leaders, some look at the situation, but none stood at the test of the time. In the course of one best leadership management concept for all situations, paradigms of leadership or research are continuously shifting from one to the other. No leadership management concept accepted by best by all researchers that can guarantee success in every situation and organization. Then the search for the best leadership management concept shifted its paradigm from theories towards the leader. Now living theories focusing on the leaders. Because best management leadership management concept may be prevalent among the most influential leaders of the human history. Researchers surveyed human history since 3500 BC to find leaders whose influence are most durable, long-lasting, powerful, pervasive, and that remain continued in the followers. So with the strong idea of influence and leadership, they searched the whole of human history to find out who is most influential and who was a leader. He has to be a leader and he has to have his influence. In this combination, they go for a search on the whole of human history from 3500 BC. And they found Buddha, Alexander the Great, the Jesus, Muhammad, Genghis Khan, and many so on, as you can see on the screen on the left. The timeline and all the events and the name of the leaders are written here. And similar like this, Hitler, and some way they pass like that. Researchers observed that in the course of human history, there have been a succession of great leaders who set out to conquer the world, who achieved a considerable measure of success. Then the most notable of these leaders were, which history can never deny, is Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon Bonaparte, and Adolf Hitler. Each of these four leaders controls such a large territory and population, exerts such an enormous influence on the life of their contemporaries that none other than the religious leader Muhammad and Jesus had on the human history. So these four leaders really excelled in all the way. Now let us have may have deep for someone, maybe for someone, or some of please leave your emotion and religious faith, etc. That may be barrier to be unbiased in seeking the knowledge of the best leadership concept, because we are trying to find out the best and most influential leader of the human history. There is no barrier in seeking knowledge. Barrier is ignorance, arrogance, and the blindness. The most notable of these influential persons as leader are Napoleon Bonaparte, who conquered almost all part of Europe, and with around 5,000 marched to Moscow to Russia. And all of them died in the war. Only 20,000 he came back with alive leader. Though he captured Moscow, but could not, with the situation, he has to retreat and came back. So 180,000 people died in just 1 war on one decision of the Napoleon Bonaparte. Adolf Hitler, in similar way, captured almost all part of the Europe, and except the Great Britain and the allied of German, the Japan captured almost all part of the Asia. German also captured the part of Africa. So almost 70% of the population, land population, was captured by German and her allies. So Napoleon and Hitler were defeated in their own time. So their conquest was short-lived. We won't take someone whose influence died down in the time of their life. We want to find out someone whose influence is durable and enduring. Alexander the Great conquered the whole world, as the history says. But though Alexander's armies were undefeated at the time of his death, but he named no successor. After his death, his empire quickly broke up. Thus, his influence died down just after his death. Genghis Khan, the leader who conquered Europe and Asia together. Genghis Khan had organized his conquest so well that children and grandchildren were able successor. By 1279, when Kublai Khan completed the conquest of China, Mongol ruled the largest land of all in human history, and Mongol continued to rule the largest section of Asia for centuries after Genghis Khan. Christopher Columbus, Simon Bolivar, Thomas Edison would never leave. Other person would have discovered, liberated South America, invented electric light, or all this could have taken place. But if Genghis Khan had never lived, it does not seem likely that anything, the enormous Mongol conquest of 13th century would have occurred. Therefore, Genghis Khan appeared to be one of the true prime mover of human history for centuries after his death. Genghis Khan conquest, though more extensive, but did not prove permanent. Today, the only area occupied by the Mongols are those they held prior to the time of Genghis Khan. As you can see on the screen, Mongolia is a landlocked country, sandwiched between Russia and China. The country is not allowed to import iron because with the iron they kill so many people. So iron is banned. They have no really industry. They have all of cattle, agriculture, poultry, feeds, and the you call it to be the all other items you don't need the agro-based industries. So this country do not have diplomacy and do not have any influence to the foreign policies. So the Genghis Khan conquer did not prove permanent. His influence came short to the small land that he had before. Only comparable conquest of Genghis Khan is the Muhammad of Arab, who carved out an empire stretching from border of India to Atlantic Ocean, the largest empire the world has yet seen. Everywhere Muhammad's army conquered, the large-scale conversion to new faith eventually followed him. Thus, from Morocco, Iraq to Morocco, their extent of whole Arab chain in nations united not merely by faith of Islam, but also by Arabic language, history, and culture. Moreover, the central unchanging Arabic Quran, accepted by all, prevent the breakup of the core ideology bondage of faith preached by the Prophet Muhammad till today. Difference and division between Arab states exist, of course, and they are considerable, but the partial disunity should not blind us the important elements of unity. They have the love for the leader Prophet Muhammad and the Arabic Quran that they followed in all parts of the world in the same way, unchangingly. The Michael Eisert said the 13th century after that influence is still powerful and pervasive. That influence is increasing at the rate of 139%. Similar kind of influence is also observed in case of Jesus. He is the inspiration of the most influential religion in the human history. Jesus' followers in Christianity almost double than the Muhammad follower in Muslim. So the impact of Jesus on human history is so obvious and so enormous that people would question his placement as the most influential person in the human history. He has on today, if we go for a voting or go for a counting, probably Jesus will be the number one, the most influential person in the human history without any question. Jesus at the time of his death simply formed a small Jewish sect Paul's writing and his tireless effort transformed this small sect into dynamic and much greater movement, grew into the largest religion of the world. In sharp contrast to Muhammad, who exercised political as well as religious authority, Jesus virtually had no influence on political development of his lifetime, around 32 or 36 years, someone says. So Jesus made his influence equally on ethical and spiritual development, and more of peace and stability in the society and the harmony in the nations. In case of Muhammad, unlike Jesus, who led 27 people in great wars, and he became victorious and conquered state of state, and ruled largest territory as a state leader, showed the example how to lead as leader and a state leader, how to lead in the war, how to lead in the business, how to lead in different segments. Supremely successful both on religious and secular level. He also had non-religious people in his organogram and also in his own state, and he gave a clear underline how to deal with these people in their religions. So influence and leadership. We go for a combination start. Jesus is the most influential person, no shortcut in it. But he had no, or he did not show any example of leadership exactly like leading a state or a war or a people in the crisis and taking them going to the goal or objectives. So he didn't have a leadership exposition like Muhammad had. So the influence and leadership, a combination, if you go for a search, then in terms of influence of leadership and combination, Michael H.R. Drank, Muhammad had, and Jesus, John Adair also mentioned similarly. He is the most influential leader of the human history, and he was human in history who was supremely successful both on religious and secular level. He may well rank the most influential political leader of all time. Yes, Muhammad was supremely successful both on religious and secular level, but his leadership domain is mostly exposed to the religious group. Thus, we reach a religious sensitivity barrier. In the face of such barriers, should we stop research? Should this research stop finding the best in leadership management concept, or should continue search for knowledge, ignoring the religious sensitivity barrier? There is no barrier in seeking knowledge, barrier with ignorance, arrogance, and blindness. Let us cross the barrier and look for this great leader had no formal education except divine revelation. Muslim holy book instructed Muhammad to accept Ibrahim as excellent example to follow. As mentioned, indeed, there was an excellent example for even Ibrahim. Muslim holy book also instructed and revealed that Ibrahim was the leader of the mankind. Ibrahim or Abraham status is accepted unquestionably in three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. His spiritual descendants all over the world, both Western and Asian. He is called the great Unitarian of in the human history, and he was given with a virtue, or you call it the trait of leadership concept. You can say that. Remember our servant Ibrahim, Isaac, and Yaqub, endowed with inner strength and vision. We favored them with a pure remembrance of whom Zikr. And also mentioned in the Quran that led him, already had given in the family of Ibrahim book, wisdom, and bestowed upon them a great kingdom. That means they were given a concept and also a land to rule with a concept. So the Muslim holy book, the Muhammad was instructed to follow Ibrahim, the leader of the mankind. And he followed, that also clearly mentioned, verily among the mankind who are the best claim to Ibrahim are those who followed him, as does this prophet. So Muhammad followed Ibrahim, no shortcut in it. Thus we can find that leadership concept of Muhammad, the most influential leader of human history, was remembrance of hereafter, which he really got from following Ibrahim, whose status is accepted unquestionably in the three major religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So Jikr appears, the concept Jikr appears to have embedded with in literal concept, not confined to the belief of Islam or religion Islam. Jikr literally stands for remembrance of home, which is meant to imply the truth that world is no home for man, only a passage or rest house, which he has to leave in any case and return to life hereafter. So there are numerous virtues endowed to Ibrahim and Muhammad. Why Zikr is chosen as the only virtue? In research, it is found that all virtue of Quran refers to the Zikr, and all virtues of the Quran diverse from the Zikr. This is a unique finding. With this finding, we can, though there are numerous virtues in the Quran, but researchers found that Zikr can give birth to all the virtues, and this is the root and greatest virtue of the Quran. The Zikr appears with the root concept which Ibrahim embedded and which Ibrahim adopted, and that was also learned from Ibrahim to the Muhammad. So let us talk about the Zikr in a short sense. A baby born, death. If there is no hereafter, and this is the end of the life, then there is no question of Zikr. Zikr reminds that it is not the end of the life. There is a life after this life. That life is everlasting and timeless. Zikr is a religious concept. How can it be a leadership concept? That's a big question to follow, whether we can find something inside this or not. When Nelson Mandela stood up for what was right despite imprisonment, he inspired a vision for better South Africa. When Steve Jobs insisted on iPhone, iTunes, and other Apple products, he did so with a big vision of something that had never been done before. When Martin Luther King Jr. organized against racial or class injustice, he did so with a vision and believed that people could and would be united despite color difference. In each of these cases, visionary leaders inspired people with the idea in which they believe for a better future. So with the better future idea, they inspired people and they guided people and they drive people. So similarly, Muhammad inspired people with a vision of infinite future life. Whatever with you bound to come to an end with sure death, but whatever with Allah is everlasting life hereafter. So when people were attracted by the concept of the everlasting pleasureful life of paradise in hereafter, they became ready to sacrifice everything of this temporary worldly life at the cause of the infinite everlasting future life hereafter. Then they followed Muhammad, the proof of which is glaring in the second Aqaba place when the serious danger of life, loss of property. They asked Muhammad, we have already lost, we have already considered the loss of property, murder of our notables, yet we pay alliance to him. What is our reward? He replied, paradise is stored for you. Then they asked him to stretch out his hand, and they stretched out their hand and took the place. Only at that point it was realized the people's readiness for sacrifice to achieve the everlasting reward of hereafter. In this way, Muhammad motivated and led his follower and did not hesitate to sacrifice everything at the command of their leader. With the concept of everlasting future life, paradise in hereafter, Muhammad turned into the most influential leader of the human history. Muhammad motivated and led his follower by the concept of hereafter, but this is a religious belief and is especially confined to the religious group. If anyone does not believe in hereafter, how will he find his vision? This is probably, so all will say this concept cannot be considered as the best concept of leadership management because it's applicable to limited to the religious belief and especially to the Muslim who followed Muhammad. So this is the most challenging issue of the concept, which will either prove its worthiness as best concept or will be rejected. The concept will be worthy when it is indispensable regardless of time and situation. Let us look into the indispensable aspect of the or hereafter. What is there inside, if there is anything in the indispensability. If we look into the inequality of the world, a baby born in a luxurious palace and baby born in distressful misery. If this is the end of the life and there is no hereafter, there is no life after this life, world life is be all and end all knowledge of this worldly life, fail to admit this grace inequality, and so they found this blind cruelty of nature. And Greek philosophy already said that this is blind cruelty of nature that man cannot really answer. If we look into the inequality of this world, we can also find like that. Such unequal human destiny, the most influential leader motivated his follower with a vision that there is a life after this life, which is timeless, and its pleasure and pain will be infinite and everlasting. The human experience of such everlasting timeless dimension of life was narrated by the prophet like that, who laid life of ease and plenty among the people, will be brought once deep into the fire, hellfire, and then it will be said to him, someone who had the most luxurious life in the world, and if he's asked that, did you see anything good? Did you see anything good? He will answer, no, Lord. That means he has not enjoyed anything in the world. The most miserable person who ever lived on the earth, if he is going to the hell and in the hellfire of the paradise, he is going to the paradise in the heaven, and the who lived the most suffering life, maybe a distressful life in the world, earth, and he will put into the paradise for a brief spell of time. Then if you say to him, did you see anything bad in the life? He will say, no, Lord, never I faced any hardship or experience in distress in the life. So the timeless concept of, or the infinite concept of hereafter, shows the possibility to compensate the great inequality between luxurious life of palace and distressed life of poor within a brief spell of time. When all concepts are speechless, then the necessity of hereafter proves its indispensability in explaining the inequality of human life on this world. Now let us investigate on the morality aspect of the life. A baby born acquiring enormous wealth by stealing or thieving or any other illegal way or immoral way, and baby born not be able to acquire such wealth by years of hard work. That is the end of the life. There is no hereafter. A thief or robber acquires so much of wealth overnight that university graduate might not be able to acquire in years of employment and hard work. If there is no life, or if there is no such world as the hereafter, the final judgment, then the thieves and robber would be better off in this world than the respective university graduate. That is why it is the only primates of the life after death and final judgment can infuse universal obligation to morality. A French philosopher, Henry Bourdieu, said, a doctrine of morality worthy of name is essentially based on the idea of obligation. This is the most fundamental basis, the pivot, the nucleus around which the ethical system revolves, whose absence would destroy the very essence of morality. Obligation. This obligation arising from the society, nation, sect, group, or organization can also infuse morality in human. So we now compare the two kinds of obligation. One is arising from the concept of hereafter, and one is devoid of hereafter. Let us form a table to comparison between two kinds of obligation. Obligation devoid of sense of accountability in hereafter and sense of accountability in hereafter. Does not include the sense of obligation to one supreme power in hereafter. This obligation arises from the nation, society, group, sect, or maybe his own made. The sense of obligation to one supreme power in hereafter, to whom belongs everything of this universe. If we compare the first one, the obligation arising from society, nation, state, group, and organization can also infuse moral value. But beyond the boundary of such organization, such obligation, a person may be immoral to others whom he has got no obligation. So this type of morality is limited to the boundary. For example, Hitler was not an immoral leader to the German, even not immoral to their allies who supported and backed him in the war. They have a cause for their war. But his morality was limited to German, those nations. And beyond the boundary, people called him immoral because he attacked France, Poland, and killed so many people. So his morality was limited to his country and his allies. So beyond the boundary for whom he has got no responsibility, he did not care about the morality. So these moralities, number one, you say devoid sense of accountability hereafter is limited to the boundary. Beyond the boundary, he don't care about the morality. Now, and the number two, that will come sense of accountability in hereafter. Extent of obligation to the one supreme power to whom belongs the whole universe. Every element is equal. Justice is infinite. because it makes someone morally responsible to all, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, to every human being, environment, plants, all living beings, a sense of absoluteness, which can infuse a kind of moral value which does not vary with the boundary or situation, is infinite, may be called as universal. So these do not change with the boundary or the people. So morality is only morality when it is universal. Otherwise, it is policy or expediency for the nation, group, sects, or the group is self-interest. Now let us look into the indispensability aspect of the concept hereafter. Hereafter, religious belief, but without this concept, worldly inequality can never be explained because they mitigate the worldly inequality. The concept of hereafter is indispensable. Infuse universal morality, justice of hereafter is indispensable. Whatever success men may have in this world, he cannot get rid of. Sickness, oldness, danger, threat, problem, finally will die one day. So life in this world appears to be most imperfect or incomplete life. Without the plan of a perfect or equal to be the peaceful life of hereafter, timeless, infinite life of hereafter, worldly life is imperfect. Without the hereafter, life of this world is incomplete, imperfect, can never be. So we find the indispensability of hereafter is in mitigating the inequality, morality, and completeness of the human life. Once the concept is what is indispensable, its effect does not remain confined to religious belief only. Though it might emerge from the religion, but it is the universal knowledge. Knowledge is not only the scientific formulas or induction knowledge of science that we see and prove or we write in the book. Science cannot show the existence of mind under a powerful microscope, but cannot deny its presence in human. Albert Einstein recognized the worthiness of religious knowledge, and he said, "Science without religion is lame, religion without science is blind." The concept of hereafter can reside in human mind, infuse hope, inequalities, suffering, oldness, sickness, death of human life in the world. So it infuses hope. Hope is a fuel of or energy of human mind. Human mind is not like a machine that its fuel can be refilled once exhausted, nor in a scientific formula that can guarantee to infuse hope in human mind. It is the assurance of justice which will decide the everlasting pleasureful life of hereafter, is the greatest hope for human mind in the face of any kind of disaster, calamity, loss, or defeat. When nothing find, you can find only one thing: have a life after this life, which will give you the true justice, and he will be. So the concept here is what the leadership concept, which can effectively motivate follower leader equally, which is very much necessary in the uphold the morality in a big organization, a long queue of the organization with the CEO and the person at the bottom, who is a gatekeeper or the cleaner. So both needs morality. If anyone who negotiates the morality, things might go otherwise. So the World-Based Leadership Vision book is now the top-rated book in the Harvard, and we can also consult the book, right? So the leadership concept derived from the hereafter remind that human is not being created to be responsible in this world, but he has necessarily to render an account of his deeds. This is human sense of responsibility. So the sense of responsibility, creator of the universe, infuse universal morality to work for humanity, which does not distinguish caste, creed, religion, because it belongs to the same creator. Due to the vision of hereafter and the concept of accountability for final judgment inspires one to do good and restrain from evil, even when nobody observes him. Thus can infuse morality in leader and follower equally. The largest empire were led and managed by the concept of hereafter. Therefore, this concept was proved as the best leadership management concept. So, thus Prophet Muhammad was supremely successful both on religious and secular level by establishing justice among the human being without distinguishing caste, creed, religion, which improved humanity in largest empire stretching from border of India to Atlantic Ocean. Evidence of such leadership is recognized by the George Bernard Shaw, he said, if a man like Muhammad were to assume the dictatorship of modern world, he would succeed in solving problems in a way that would bring much needed peace and happiness. That's what we want to say. I'm done with the presentation. Now I'm ready to answer or inquiries if you want to.
Thank you. Very, very informational for sure. Appreciate that. I will ask you if you don't mind stop share. Did you do that?
Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, no worries. I'm going to go ahead and share again.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead. Any questions, Dr. Bullen?
Oh, no question to Alan because
No, I didn't. That was extremely informative. I was like, wow, just kept me thinking a lot. I didn't have any questions. I thought um, just to even the information you provided was thought provoking, and I think with all of the research and on leadership, it was something very new, and I like that. Very thank you very much.
Yes, the concept of leadership through you know, the history of leaders that
Mm-hmm.
for, and then bringing it through religion, or explaining it in a different way and putting it out there. Concept definitely informational, and I'm sure you're doing further research on this, Dr. Zia.
yeah, I'm still on research. But this has got a religious sensitive barrier, so it's very difficult to put into the minds of the people. And but this is indispensable, because how you're moral, we need, without obligation there is no morality. So
Absolutely.
that obligation arises maybe from the nation, society, or maybe from the universal to the creator of the universe. Anyway, that we find in the way, but that is necessary.
So what is your future plans for any more research?
I really have not much of the plan, because I was in the UCLA. Maybe we'll be meeting with Alan Bowen someday and find, that's what I come to USA most of the time in the year and have some conference talk and then go back, because the pandemic really I cannot come more of the days. Almost all the year I do visit. Next time I may be going to the Franklin University Alan Shearer's conference with some other more topic, new topic. She had been talking today on the intersectionality. I might be talking about the composite concept of leadership and management.
Wonderful. That's a great idea to come back out once everything is safe and things. And I think what's happening though is conferences are going to be where they're offered both in person and virtual. So the virtual part is, I think, here to stay as well. So
I do too. We have a virtual conference that starts next week. It's usually a face-to-face one day. We spread it out over 3 days for 2 or 3 hours. And I think it's just making that shift and that transition. So I agree. I think they're going to be here for a while.
yes, absolutely. And it's feasible for some, and they can at least listen in if they're not being engaged. At least they're listening and they can still be part of it. So I do like that part for sure. So I want to go ahead.
Okay. I come to LA most of the time because I have my relatives, people here, my daughters. So that's not easy for me to join in the University of Riverside so easily. And that's what I visit actually, because of the interest of my coming here more of the times, and easy for me to stay with the friends, relatives, and passing time and joining conference together, going on the same line.
Perfect. Yes, I definitely agree with you. And I've been doing this for a little bit now, almost a little bit over a year and a half. And I actually started when the pandemic started. So I don't know in person, I only know virtual. So that, for me has been the real challenge, but I've been enjoying quite a bit of it. So I want to thank you guys for being here today and sticking through with us. I appreciate that. I just want to go back and let you know that we are Global Conferences USA is what we're kind of going by here. And through that, we're also offering free webinars now, and they're all posted on our YouTube channel, which is Global Conferences USA. Our most recent one was the domestic violence, noticing the red flags, and our guest speaker was Dr. Krista Batten. And so that is something to look at. And then our next one coming up, if you want to save the date, is going to be Building the Future, Effective Retirement Strategies for Investors. This one is by our guest speaker, Dr. Henrietta Okora. She's very informational. She's done another one before and it's been amazing. Learn something new every time from her. So September 29th, 2021, and it's going to be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard. So that puts a good timing for Eastern for individuals to, you know, do it in the evening after dinner. So, and it does require registration at uofriverside.com/webinars on our home website. And
Okay.
without further ado, we want to say thank you. Thank you for attending today. And I just want to point out some of our social media. We have Facebook, we have the Instagram, we have YouTube and LinkedIn, and they're all Global Conferences USA. It's a great way to stay connected with us, and stay tuned for more things that we're trying to develop in the coming months. I appreciate that time. Is there anything else?
No, you're fine. Really fine. If we get the links, please, if you email the links, then it will be better for us.
Absolutely. I will be doing your certificates next week, and along with that, if
Okay.
it takes a while for me to download, sometimes computers kind of slow with that onto YouTube. So as soon as it's downloaded, I will let you know, and it'll be on that side for sure. And I appreciate your participation, your patience as well. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording at this time.